Welcome to worshiptutorials.com. I'm Bradford, and in this video we're going to show you the parts to Elevation Worship song, God of the Promise. Just like most songs that we teach you here on the channel, everything can be pulled apart if you look at every part of a song as using a method, a chord shape, a scale, or something like that. So as we do that, we're going to show you how each part can be pulled out of one of those things. So this song is in the key of B, and so all the parts and everything we're using dance around that. But before we get there, we are using my Suhr Classic T. I love this. This guitar and actually all this equipment is not 100% necessary, but we're using the Helix, and if you have one of those, we do have a patch available on the website. The link is below, and we also have a playthrough video using that exact patch and showing you the parts that we're going to be going through in this video. So the intro starts just hanging into the G sharp minor pentatonic scale, and you could totally rearrange these notes or rearrange this setup depending on what makes sense to you, but the way we're breaking that down today is in here. Now if you are not playing in the key of B, it is a little high, at least for me. So if I were to be singing it, I'd probably do it in A or so. So these shapes will still hold true. Just about everything we're doing today is real easy to shift around without having to worry about too much. So this intro starts on your G string on the 6th fret, and you're going to do a little slide. 6, 8, 6. And you're going to drop to the 4. And then on the G string. So 4, and then D is 6, 4. So here's that so far. And you're going to repeat just that slide part. Drop to the 4th fret on the G string. And you're going to repeat that whole thing. So hold. Real easy. It's only 5 notes. So the slide, you don't have to do it if you don't feel comfortable. I know that can be a little awkward sometimes. If you don't want to do the slide, you can just drop to your B string on the 4th fret. Like that. It doesn't change it too much, but if you feel more comfortable keeping your hands still and locked in, you're only going to be using your 4th and your 6th fret that way. The only time you move from those frets is if you make the slide. So, up to you. Here's what it sounds like with all the cool effects. What we have on here today is, it's labeled the riff section on the Helix patch. It's got a pitch effect. It's got a Timmy overdrive, which just is a nice, to use the buzzword, transparent kind of drive. And then tube screamer sound. We got some verb. And there's not a whole lot in this. And an 8th delay. So the song clocks in at 74 BPM. If that's how you choose to tap it, then you'll use 8th delay to give you the dual repeats that you're hearing, like this. But if you decide to tap in the double time speed, if that makes more sense to you as well, then it's just quarter notes at that point. So here is our riff up to speed with all the effects. Just like that. So let's move on to the verse. Now this is the one time things are going to change just a little bit if you're not doing the song in the same key. We're going to use an open string, but we're using single notes, and we're following the bass line and the chord progression. So you can kind of follow whatever the bass is doing, and it keeps up. It's not too tough. We'll walk through it here. They have an inversion, so in the key of B, the inversion is a B over D sharp. So we're actually going to hit that D sharp. We're going to hold that for a while. We're going to use the 6th fret on our A string. And then we're going to go to a G sharp, which is on the 4th fret of our E string. And then we're going to do an open E string. So basically we're going to be doing 16th notes during the course of the progression. When we do the D sharp and the G sharp, we're going to hit both of those for half of a measure, but playing 16th notes. And then we're going to hold the E string open for one whole measure, like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Alright, that's the first riff. The second part of the riff is very similar. We're going to keep the same rhythm and the same pattern of playing, but we're going to do different notes. So it's going to go D sharp to the low E to the B. So we'll do a D sharp for 2 beats, an E for 2 beats, and then the B for a whole measure, 4 beats. Still 16 notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So for this sound on the Helix, what we did was we switched from an eighth delay to a quarter note delay. So that'll give it a little more space. It's not quite as busy. And we took the 808 off. So it's just the Timmy, the verb, and a quarter note delay instead of an eighth. And obviously no pitch. So here's how that sounds. Right at the end, I kind of just gave like a little chugga chugga. It's in the track. You can do it. They're fun. I think they sound like rock and roll, and I like doing it all the time. And it makes me just feel super cool because it gives a little bit of space before you launch into the chorus, which is where we're going next. The chorus, in terms of sound, we go back to the eighth delay, and actually we cut back on the overdrive. And the reason I bring that up is because the intensity with which we do the single note stuff in the verse and what we're doing now in the chorus, you need to kind of bring back some so it's a little more dynamically pleasing. And also it makes this guitar part kind of sit in the mix a little better. So that's pretty important considering you're carrying the rhythm during this chorus. Now, this is actually real easy. It's one thing the whole time through. What you're doing though is you're holding well, let's go backwards actually. If you play an A chord, a lot of times you'll see that you play the A chord stacked 3 fingers. But sometimes, and this is pretty much what I do almost exclusively, I don't use my pinky. So I only fret using on the 2nd fret of my D and my G, and I leave everything else open. I don't hit the low E, but I hit just like that. So that's actually, in terms of music theory, is known as an A2 because the 2, the key of A, is a B. And we're leaving that open. So we got this A chord with the 2 on the top. So what we're hearing in the chorus of this song is a similar idea, similar voicing, but we're actually doing it for a B. So since our B bar chord is like this, we're only going to use what's on our 4th fret, and we're going to start by pretty much making that same A shape. And what we're going to do is you're going to want to keep your 1st finger locked on the 2nd fret of the B string. And your other 3 fingers are going to keep stacked, and it gets a little crowded, but that's okay. You're going to keep stacked on the 4th fret all the way down on your D, G, and B. And then you're going to do this kind of like galloping rhythm. And the whole time, all you're doing is lifting the pinky up. That's the only thing that's changing. But your rhythm is da 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 da. Just like that. So like I said, we cut back on some effects. We went back to the 8th delay, and we turned off the overdrive. We are using a rather dirty amp with this. This is the Matchless, it's a Vox style. But we wanted that because, for the most part, you're not doing any clean stuff in the song. And so we liked the way this sounded that way. So, of course, it's up to you. But here's the part up to speed with all the effects. Now, I know you probably may try to sing over top of that as you're playing and realize it kind of sounds a little weird. But basically what you're doing is allowing the bass and the melody to carry the way the song's supposed to feel. So at certain times it's kind of like inversions, and a lot of times if you break down the guitar parts you're playing, it becomes a lot easier when you realize that the bass is what's allowing things to change. And so as you scoot around lifting the pinky and allowing they go from like a B to this B2 thing going back and forth, the bass is what's carrying that. So if you're not hearing the bass in your head as you're playing, it's going to sound a little weird, but that's fine because that's exactly what it is. Now, if you're also playing with another guitar player, because most of these we're trying to give you an idea of what to do if you're the only guitar player. If you're playing with another guitar player, depending on how your room feels even, or how your band's feeling, do one of 2 things for a secondary guitar part in this chorus. Either just follow the same idea as the verse by doing just that single note thing and moving along with the bass, or do the full-on chords. Certain rooms may feel different. Maybe the feel you're going for may change things up, but the second you start playing big chords, it's going to sound really rocking and really big. So keep that in mind. So the next part will actually hurt your hand a little bit because of how long you're doing it, but it's really cool. The instrumental part right after the chorus, right before you go into the bridge, is the same part as the bridge, and you're going to do that the whole way through. For our patch, we did two sounds. We did one that was a little thicker for the bigger part towards the end, and we did one a little quieter as you start, just a little bit, as you start playing it. For this whole bridge instrumental breakdown, we're staying in the G sharp minor pentatonic. The whole time, we are also only using 16th notes. And every time you play each grouping of notes before you go and descend on the scale one more time is 3 3 2. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. So we start on the 6th fret on the D string, then hop to the G string on the 4th fret, and then up to the 6th fret on the G string. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. Then go to the 4th fret on the D string and follow the same pattern, and actually you're still doing the same thing on the G string. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. And then you're going to want to get this E. Now again, for me, this is still in the pentatonic minor, and my brain learns these parts way better if I stay within a shape. If you feel more comfortable, you can drop to the 2nd fret on the D string if you want, but what we're going to do here is use our pinky to get the 7th fret on the A string. Same pattern, 3 3 2. 3 1 2 3 1 2. So we're going to use the same pattern, 3 3 2, and it's still, the last part is still the same thing on the G string, 4 6. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. The next skip we're going to do is go down to a low B. So that this is not there's not a real smooth way to do this if you want to hit the actual note. You can either drop to the 2nd fret on the A string, or you can hit the 7th fret on the E string. This riff actually changes up ever so slightly. We do hop up now to the B string on the 4th fret, and then go back to the G string on the 6th fret. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. So here's the whole thing together. We'll do it slow again. In regards to sound, it's got a little bit of delay, verb, and we have just the tube skimmer on this time. Right at the end, as you're going back into the chorus, you're about to go into the same riff that you use in the intro and in the turn, and you will use in the outro. So as you end it, hang out on that 6th fret on the G string, because it kind of flows right into the riff, which actually starts there. Listen one more time. So it makes more sense if you do it that way and just hold it, as you can switch the octave on, or however you're choosing to do it if you're switching and hitting the one button on our Helix patch too. So as I said, bridge riff, hold on that 6th fret on the G string to go right back into the intro riff, and then you drop out, do a little rock chugga chugga, back into the chorus, outro, then you end the song at the end of that riff, holding on to the B note on your G string. Give it a little wiggle, give it some vibrato, give it a little bit of character as the band crashes out, and that's it. The song, pretty straightforward to play, pretty straightforward in terms of parts, but the jumping around and the skipping and all that it requires, and a lot of that down, 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 down motion and the 16th notes, it can wear you out, but just practice. It's a good song for exercise. So if you're a second guitarist and you're playing along with this, the same thing here for the turns and the outros applies as I mentioned in the chorus. I would just follow the bass line and kind of alter to how your band in the room sounds and feels. Whether it's the single note stuff, which is actually part of the track, sounds really good, or just playing the full-on chords, real rockin', power chords, that kind of thing. That's all we got for you today. Don't forget to check everything out in the link below, the website as well. Plenty of resources for you and your team. We appreciate it. See you next time.